Welcome to For the Record. I'm Janelle Hall. Tomorrow marks 1 month since a moment that brought so many of our lives to a standstill for hours. We're talking about the CrowdStrike catastrophe that caused global computer outages affecting airlines, hospitals, and more. This morning, I speak with David Hickton, a former U.S. attorney and the founding director of Pitt's Institute for Cyber Law, Policy, and Security. He takes me through that global meltdown, explaining how it happened and exploring some of the unanswered questions. Let's take you back to the early morning hours of July 19th. We have heard it being described as a global computer meltdown. I'm curious about your thoughts about that, your reaction to it. It was all traced back to the cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike. In layman's terms, explain what happened and how significant this was.
Well, first of all, it was very significant, and my first reaction was I had a lot of experience with CrowdStrike. I like CrowdStrike. They have about a quarter of the cybersecurity business. They're very prominent. They were created when we began to realize that we needed to build an architecture and an infrastructure so that companies could have defense against, hacking. And so I know the people at CrowdStrike. I've recommended CrowdStrike to many people. So that was my first reaction. That was a monumental consequence to the ecosystem that we've created around cybersecurity. My second reaction was, just as we've grown this ecosystem and this architecture for cybersecurity, we've dispensed with companies having their own individual security officer. And so what we've built is an interconnected defense mechanism, which is then therefore vulnerable to the type of collapse we had. And it's a real warning sign for us that we don't sort of want to put all of our eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think CrowdStrike wouldn't be something that's like a regular household name, but it's interesting to me that, your perspective on how much of the industry they're a part of.
Right. I mean, I would say about once a month, sometimes even more frequently than that, I get a phone call from a friend or a business owner who says, we've just been hacked, our system is bricked, or we have a ransomware attack, we're being extorted, what do we do? And the consequence for most people, particularly companies that have incoming revenue and billing that needs to go out, is often the cost of the defense of the hack is greater than paying the cost to the extortionist. And so in those instances, probably half the time, I recommend that they engage CrowdStrike. So that was my real reaction to all of this. CrowdStrike pays a set fee per connected device. And what happened really in this CrowdStrike catastrophe is they have developed some really sophisticated tools, including tools that incorporate artificial intelligence. The one in question here is named Falcon. And what they do is they scan the system of the customer to see abnormalities or irregularities which might indicate that there is a hacking effort afoot. And then they create a solution for it. And what happened here was that there was this automatic update that was really only online for about 90 minutes. But it was embedded within the Microsoft Outlook system, which is ubiquitous across the world. And it had a coding error in it. And the coding error caused the so-called blue screen of death, where everybody who touched this system was now bricked, and they couldn't function. And the remediation necessary can't be done with a simple reboot. It's a very complicated remediation. CrowdStrike immediately took responsibility for it, but the consequences are unbelievable. 8 billion or computers or million computers around the world, billions and billions of dollars of losses. Delta Airlines itself is claiming $500 million of losses. And there's a whole nother question here. We don't really have a mature cyber insurance market. It's sort of finding its own leveling point. We don't know really how to do risk analysis for what a cyber attack will cost. And so insurers don't really know what to charge for insurance. They don't know what the indemnity loss ratio might be. And we also don't have really good standards for what companies are supposed to do. Before this incident, a really good standard would be hire CrowdStrike. Yeah. That's the irony of all of this. So this is a dramatic development. It's not a hack, it's a meltdown, as you called it. And it reflects sort of the nascent developing nature of our cyber ecosystem.
So when we talk about the airlines being impacted by this, is there anything that they could have done differently?
Well, there's a lot of room for improvement with the airline systems. Southwest had a problem just a couple of years ago. They have these legacy systems which really need to be updated. And the problem with updating legacy systems, it's kind of like if you have a bad bridge. Do you repair the bridge or do you build a bridge right next to it and blow up the old one? And who can afford to do that? So, there's already finger pointing going on between CrowdStrike and Microsoft and Delta. CrowdStrike has said, we accept responsibility, but we're not responsible for Delta's negligence. And there's going to be a lawsuit over this. And who knows, did Microsoft allow the CrowdStrike preventive program to get too embedded into Microsoft Outlook? Should it have been one rim further outside so that if it failed, it didn't take everything down? Did Delta make mistakes on top of this or before this? It's a very complicated question, and the courts ultimately will decide this. But if you think about it this way, CrowdStrike is really like the security guards or the police or the firefighters to ward off the bad guys who are the hackers, most often hackers from overseas who are trying to steal from us. So do you really want to make them the villains? We always say don't blame the firemen for the fire. You can criticize how they did their craft, and we can learn from a after-action review of it. But I fall into the category of a defender of CrowdStrike because all they're trying to do is protect us from hackers. And the fact that their system was so advanced with all the latest tools to give us the best chance to stop ransomware, which we still don't really have a good answer for. I mean, if you get hit with ransomware, your remedy really is a Hobson's choice. Pay an extortionist with no assurance that they won't come back and hit you again, or tank your system. And again, I've dealt with many victims of ransomware who have gone through that drama, and it's a lose-lose proposition. So what CrowdStrike is hired to do is to develop the most advanced tools and to put automatic updates in the system, because users don't, even I don't, not very good about hitting the update button. So they put these automatic updates in, and just 1 0 off sends an error message that the code is malignant, and it just shuts everything down. So I think we've learned a lot about whether we need redundant systems. We've learned a lot about whether we want to segregate our systems so that we can shunt or isolate failure and it doesn't have this catastrophic effect. You talk about the airlines. It was hospitals, it was Arby's, it was McDonald's, and it was all around the world. And everyone's saying, how could it be that we've created this system where one little mistake like that could just tank everything?
So what do you do differently? And it also goes to show how reliant we are on technology in this day and age.
We are. It's a really tough question. The internet is open and accessible. You're particularly vulnerable in a free democratic society like ours. There's all sorts of security that needs to be put together. We need enterprise security, we need security for the applications, we need security for the operating systems. One of the greatest problems is trying to train people to protect themselves. There are very simple things that can reduce our risk. And if there's one, I would tell your viewers and listeners and anyone who's interested in hearing from me at the local coffee shop. If you receive an email with an attachment, never, never, never open it without going through the process of making a call to the sender and say, did you send me this? Because this sophisticated problem with this widespread impact is really premised upon a very crude and antiquated concept known as spear phishing, where you send an email with malicious attachment, and it's a spoofed email, and you open the attachment, and you're now a victim. So changing your password regularly, having dual-factor authentication, which is available very easily, where you get a phone call or an email to make sure it's you, and you have to approve the entry into the system. Mm-hmm. And most of all, don't open attachments without calling the sender. But they say that if you do perfect training for a workforce, 1 in 7 will violate that rule. Just because people are, not careless, but they're in the hustle bustle of their digital daily lives, where we do things so fast now without the care and reflection that we might have done in an earlier era.
Still ahead on For the Record.
I think that's the purpose of some of these attacks, and I think we need to get smart real fast.
Hackers targeting America, a look at their goals and what they might be targeting. Welcome back to For the Record. My conversation with former U.S. Attorney David Hickton continues now with a look at the threats hackers pose to the United States, and interests ranging from a local water authority to your bank account. Here's what he had to say. For people who aren't familiar with your background and your story, let's talk a little bit about your role at the University of Pittsburgh right now and that institute and the goal to try to make this world a safer place.
Sure. So during my time as U.S. Attorney, I became persuaded through my outreach to community stakeholders and really a conversation with then FBI Director Bob Mueller, who had been a U.S. Attorney and who had been really ahead of his time with regard to the cyber threat, had given his agents a book called The Cuckoo's Egg, which your viewers can look up, but it's an emergent attack on our American research labs through the cyber medium. And then there had been in Hollywood some really interesting movies about cyber attacks right before I took office, that this was really the next frontier of crime. And it was not only crime in its own right, it was a cybercrime pathway, because the digital evidence is, in the dark, it evaporates, it's harder to trace, the cyber criminals are anonymous. It just seemed to me to be the thing to do. So I created very early on a dedicated group to work on this. We worked very hard at the early stages. It was kind of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. I think some of the people around me thought I was crazy because we didn't have any cases. But we went and got the cases, and before I left, we were really the tip of the spear for the U.S. Department of Justice on cyber law enforcement. We did the very first indictment of a nation state, which was China, here in Pittsburgh. We did 2 weeks later the most notorious Russian cyber criminal, and we did probably about 50 cases, many of which would be in everybody's top 10. And so when I left the Department of Justice, the chancellor at the University of Pittsburgh, who had had some experience working at NIST, had been responsible for developing the program for how we protected our critical infrastructure, like our banks, our water supply, our schools, our electric grid, and so forth, reached out to me and said, you know, you're a graduate here, we'd like to highlight your work, and we should really be in the conversation on this subject, and would you build an institute here? So our institute, known as Pitt Cyber, or the University of Pittsburgh Institute for Cyber Law Policy and Security, was birthed in 2017, and we work at the intersection of law and technology. We are a policy institute, kind of like a think tank. I teach, but we're really not a teaching component, and we do research, but we're really not a pure research component. We are an accelerant. We facilitate the work of other academics and researchers to try and identify areas where there is no policy and we can establish policy, or identify areas where there are questions that no one's really thought of. So I kind of like that because I was on cyber before anyone else was. I chaired the National Opioid Task Force. I was on that before anyone else was. We did the case involving the hack of the 2016 election. I was into election security before anyone else was. And we have a lot of work going, but our 4 signature areas are youth education and workforce development. We have a partnership with the U.S. Air Force. We run the largest camp for high school students every summer. We did a bipartisan election security report before the pandemic based on some of my experience at the Department of Justice, which really then became the way we can vote during the pandemic. And so that work still has a vapor trail, if you will. And I'm doing a lot of election security conferences this fall because that's topical. We do a lot of work on disinformation, which is a big scourge that everybody should be concerned about. Information integrity and believing what we see online is true in this era of deep fakes and malicious emails that are just patently false, that are designed to inflame the American public, is a real threat to our democracy. And then we work a lot on artificial intelligence and decision-making algorithms. We did a path-breaking report on how municipal governments use algorithms. You know, we love it when we use artificial intelligence for purposes of speeding up crowd control and the parking lot exits at the Steeler game. We love it when we take limited number of snowplows during a snowstorm and we use artificial intelligence to isolate where the greatest need is. Mm-hmm. But it's not a good idea if we reinforce past stereotypes and institutional racism, if we decide who's going to recommit a crime based on a zip code, or if we do policing based on historical patterns of over-policing. So there were no standards for this. And we did a really great report on that. You know, anyone who's interested can look at our website, cyber.pitt.edu, and our work is all chronicled there.
There's so many different bullet points that I want to pull out from what you talked about. But
sure.
When we talk about hacking, we've had examples here where we had a water system in Aliquippa attacked. And I think the average person would go, who would go after a water system and why? And what's the lesson for the people in charge of that water system in terms of, you know, safety and security?
Well, many people feel that the next conflict in the world is not going to be fought with bullets and bombs, that it's going to be a digital engagement. And if you think about it, we had some examples where North Korea had 2 malicious hacks that principally hit Europe, but one of them hit the Allegheny Valley Health System in Sewickley, called WannaCry and Cry Again, and it shut down a hospital system. So just imagine the horror of someone using a digital tool or digital weapon to make it impossible to deliver health care. And then extend that across the components of critical infrastructure that we conventionally think about. Think about our air traffic control system. What could be done to elevate 0 elevation with planes in the sky, or scramble the ability of air traffic control systems to monitor planes? Think about our banking system. Everybody now uses just digital banking. If you show up and try and hand somebody cash right now, good luck. And so, you know, I look at all of these examples, and there have been plenty, water system in Aliquippa, electrical grid brownouts in California. I look at them through two lenses. One is it's a crime, a cyber assault. If it comes from overseas, it's an intrusion on our national sovereignty. But I also look at them from the lens of they're probing us to see what our reaction is. The North Korean Cry Cry Again attack, which hit principally Europe, established to me that society can function for about 3 days with disorder and then everybody turns on themselves. If people can't get money, if people can't get groceries, if people can't get fuel, in about 72 hours there's panic. And I think that's the purpose of some of these attacks. And I think we need to get smart real fast.
And how do we do that?
Well, first of all, we prioritize this. And secondly, we develop good policies which have resiliency and redundancy and put us in the position that we don't end up in a chess game where we're checkmated, where someone says to us, okay, you have no electricity right now, and you have no fuel, and your citizens can't get money out of their bank accounts, or their bank accounts have been liquidated. You know, I know people that keep a paper record of every statement because they're concerned that they're not going to be able to establish what their accounts are. I don't want people to be overly concerned. They're really smart people working on this.
Keep it here. We're going to talk more about the resources to help you learn more about safety and cybersecurity. That's ahead in just 2 minutes.